The Batman is now playing in theaters worldwide, and there is a bunch of vengeance that I want to discuss. So, as the title suggests, this is a spoiler video. Let's just get into it. Once more, like the title suggests, and as I said in the opening of this video, this is a spoiler review of The Batman. Please go watch the film before watching this video. That is your follow warning, but of course, I don't want to just give you my spoiler review for The Batman. I want you to start the spoiler conversation in the comments below, anything and everything down there. And of course, if you like movies and TV, this is the place to be, and I do have a spoiler-free review for The Batman up right now, as well as an article on mamasgeeky.com where I explore some of the things that I'm going to talk about in this video, and a link for that is down in the description. And I want to start talking about the dichotomy of Bruce Wayne and the Batman, how Matt Reeves approaches the duality of this character, and he manages to give us a very unconventional origin story, where Batman is very much on his second year. This isn't the proper Bruce Wayne decides to become this vigilante kind of story, but it is very much a story that finds Bruce Wayne in this place where he's still completely haunted by the death of his parents, and he feels like a shell of a man. He doesn't even feel like a human. He feels like someone who's barely holding on, someone who is without a soul. And every time he puts that cowl on, he becomes this demon from hell, to the point where the first time we see him in the film, it's not as Bruce Wayne. We hear the narration of Bruce Wayne, but he's really speaking as the Batman, and we see those thundering stomps of his steps as he makes his way towards this group, this gang that has these painted faces that are beating up on this innocent man, and he just unleashes violence. And throughout the film, we see this Bruce Wayne, and every interaction he has with anyone, at the funeral, where he's being approached by the mayor, or the would-be mayor at the time, and he doesn't know how to interact with her. He doesn't know how to interact with another human being. He's always in Batman mode. He's even hypnotized by the kid, the son of the mayor, that now he sees himself in. And I love that. I love how this Batman is a monster that Bruce Wayne has hidden behind, where he has done nothing as Bruce Wayne. He has done absolutely nothing with his life, with the legacy of the Wayne, with the name he carries. And Alfred, as Alfred does, just constantly trying to rescue him. And we don't get too much of Alfred, we don't get too much of Andy Serkis, but every time we do get him, it's such a crucial scene. I do really love how we get a very bare minimum Alfred, because it just shows how hidden away, even from him, this Bruce Wayne is. And this Batman is freaking unrelentless. It was just always cool whenever Batman came onto the scene. From the first scene we talked about, when he goes after Catwoman, he's surveilling her as she goes to the safe to get her friend's passport. And he's not even breaking a sweat when he confronts her. She's going all out trying to kick his ass, and he's just barely boom, boom, defending her blows. The chase scene after the Penguin. Greig Fraser is an absolute madman. The way this scene is shot just shows how relentless this Batman is, where his only resolve is to catch these criminals, it's to take them down. And I love his journey of discovery in this film, where he's not yet set out to become this symbol of hope and to protect the people of Gotham. For most of the film, we don't see him caring, acknowledging the people of Gotham as Batman. He's just going after these criminals. The pain of the loss of his parents has haunted this man so much, to the point where he's become this monster that can only live with that pain if he unleashes it on others. At this moment, this Batman that we see in this film, that Matt Reeves so meticulously crafts throughout this film with that whole duology where we don't see much of Bruce Wayne. We see much more of the Batman because he has hidden himself away, and so he is hiding from us watching the film. And so this Batman is not yet giving out something good to the world. He's not becoming something more. He's just unleashing the pain he feels on others. And throughout this film, he grows into something more. And all of this that I just talked about is great, compelling character writing, a beautiful journey of becoming that Matt Reeves beautifully crafts into his script and explores during this film. But Robert Pattinson, man, the guy just isn't getting enough praise. This is a tough role to play. Both of these sides of this character are tough to play on their own, and he balances them and makes them one person throughout this film, believably so, in such a beautiful way, where you see him throughout taking little pieces of what he learns along this journey from different characters, from many different characters. And one of those reasons is because of Catwoman. And I said in my spoiler-free review, Zoë Kravitz is easily the best Catwoman we've ever had in live action. This is a meaty role. This is a significant three-dimensional character. Not only does she have immense chemistry with Robert Pattinson, from the beginning, the sexual tension between those two, which is what you want in a Batman and Catwoman kind of relationship. And you see throughout the film how he, several times, tries to save her. The whole thing about them working together where he stays behind and he gives her those lenses where those contacts where she can see other people and he can get the information about who they are and whatnot. That's freaking sweet. That's really great tech that I love seeing Detective Batman use. But the character of Catwoman in this is not only someone that is really cool, really sassy, sultry. Her theme by Michael Giacchino is great. She is someone equally as broken as Batman. And throughout this film, you see him trying to save her. She's the first person that Batman tries to save. Everything else that he does in this film, up until the end, because it's his journey, obviously, it's always him hurting other people, going after the Riddler, chasing all these criminals. She is the first person he tries to save constantly throughout this film. Even when they have Kinsey, I believe the name of the cop was, on top of the roof. He's the guy who grabbed her friend and had her eventually killed. That relationship is built throughout this film, and that is one of the best scenes that you can highlight about where that relationship comes to. Where Batman, he's not going to budge his moral compass for her, but he will try his damn hardest to save her. Another relationship that I love in this movie is Batman and Gordon. Their whole exchange when he's in the cell, and he's like, you gotta punch me. You gotta punch me. Get out this door, go upstairs, and then leave from the rooftop. That is just frigging awesome. How Gordon is the only guy in the police force that trusts Batman. And seeing them work together to solve this case, actively going after the Riddler together, that's freaking awesome. We even have that one policeman that starts to take a liking and starts trusting him more and more as the film goes on. How they're both in Riddler's apartment when Batman does that final investigation, when he uncovers the rug and sees the bat in the rat cage and all that, and he's the only one left. And then we have the explosions for the flood. That whole relationship is so great. And there's a great payoff to it that we'll talk about more in a bit, where it's Gordon that snaps Batman out of that fit of rage that he's sent into with the whole liquid thing that I'm going to theorize about it in a bit. I also really love how they went hardcore into the Long Halloween storyline with the whole relationship between Catwoman and Falcone. They went really hardcore into it. They went so obvious in that direction that I even missed it. I didn't see it coming until she actually says it. He's my father. And I'm like, oh, that's right. They're doing Long Halloween, which is obviously one of the biggest inspirations behind this film. And you can tell Matt Reeves is not trying to hide where he's taken his inspiration from. I'm sure he's taken it from several sources, but there are straight shots in this film. There are clearly panels from Long Halloween, costumes in this film that are from Long Halloween. And obviously another one of his big influences was Year One, which is in itself also not only a great story, a great comic book that you can get. Both of these stories are great, but they also ended up being great comic book animated movies. Batman Year One came out in 2011, I believe, and just last year they did a two-parter Long Halloween movie, and those are quite good themselves. And this is the perfect marriage of those two. The blending in of all these stories is just great. And Reeves not only dives deep into the Long Halloween lore with the relationship between Carmine and Catwoman, the whole story that we quickly hear about at the funeral when Carmine sees Bruce Wayne and says hi to him, and we hear the whole story of how when he was shot, he just stumbled into Wayne Manor and Thomas Wayne took care of him at the dinner table. Just really awesome confrontation that it will work more for comic fans that already know this story and have seen it in the animated film, but it's just, again, those little intricate planting of seeds that Matt Reeves does in this film that works so well. Let's talk about Paul Dano as Riddler. Absolutely unsettling. The way they present him, where he just shows up after the mayor walks out of the shot, is just so fucking eerie. And throughout the film he creates this sense of unsettledness that you don't know what's going to happen. I wasn't sure it was going to happen because he's playing this mind game that we're alongside the Batman trying to figure out what his plan is. And all his attacks are just so lamented, but so ingenious and so intriguing, and you got all these metaphors. And obviously the most interesting attack is when he goes to attack Bruce Wayne, leading Batman and Gordon to the Gotham orphanage, and he starts seeing that reel of Thomas Wayne playing, and we get several interesting flashes. One of the big takeaways for me here that I explore more in the article in the description below is that Martha Wayne is now an Arkham. So she's not just someone that ends up being Bruce's mother. Her history, her family history, is directly tied to the history of Gotham, much like Thomas Wayne and the Wayne family tree is. So there are two big institutions within the world of Batman that came together and gave birth to Bruce Wayne. And I think that makes things very interesting moving forward, because it's a big change for who the character is. But also we see another name flashing up, and that is Edward Elliot. And eventually when the Riddler gets put in jail and he is caught and whatnot, we see two IDs on him. One of them has the name Edward, I think it was actually Edward Parker, and the other one we don't know, but they never confirm which one, if any, is his real identity. So I still think Paul Dano's Riddler could maybe not be Edward Nygma, but be Thomas Elliot. Throughout the film there's a lot of suggestion, and even in the confrontation between Batman and Riddler in Arkham, there's a lot of suggestion but never outright confirmation about who he is and what he wants when attacking Bruce Wayne directly. To the point where that attack on Bruce Wayne, yes, he's attacking Thomas Wayne, he's revealing stuff about Thomas Wayne, but the one who's eventually going to pay for that is Bruce, which I found interesting because it doesn't feel like any of the other attacks he has perpetrated throughout the film. For all intents and purposes, with what the Riddler is revealing, Bruce Wayne himself is still innocent. So it's the one attack of the Riddler's that feels personal. It doesn't feel rational, it doesn't feel like it has a logic to it that connects to all the other attacks and all the other political figures that he has taken down. This one feels personal. This one feels like it has emotion behind it. All the other ones are dispassionate, but this one has fervor in it. And so I think we could still very well confirm eventually that this guy, played by Paul Dano, the Riddler, is Thomas Elliot. And another thing that makes me believe that is because we have the Arkham connection, the Wayne connection, and now the possibility of a Thomas Elliot, And in the Riddler's first card, we have an image of an owl, and we have the cipher that the Court of Owls uses in the comics. The Court of Owls themselves intrinsically connected to the history of Gotham and all its big players, all its important political figures. They're the ones who usually want to take down these figures of power to crumble society in Gotham and build it from the ground up, which essentially is what Riddler does with the whole flood thing and the ingenious plan, a real change, a change that fundamentally changes the future of the city, its people, and they try to take down more of its important political figures when the Riddler's followers and this cult that he's created online as an influencer, for lack of a better term, they start to take down the people, they start to attack the mayor. That connects a lot to the Court of Owls. It just makes a ton of sense to me. And once again, we have a great action sequence in that final fight where Batman just unleashes pain on those guys. And we have the team up between him and Catwoman fighting the Riddler goons. And at one point, Batman gets shot in the chest, like really close range with this rifle, with this shotgun. And he's out of it. He's losing his senses. And so Catwoman starts being attacked and choked out by one of the goons. And he takes out from his utility belt this flask with a green liquid and injects himself and just sends him into this whole other level of rage. And now I'm wondering if that could be Venom. Like Bane uses in the comics, Bane uses Venom to make himself strong, and he gets thrown into these huge fits of rage when he does. He loses logic, he loses his cerebral capacity, he just wants to unleash pain. And that's very much what Bruce becomes in this moment until Gordon snaps him out of it. What's also great is when they take the mask off of this goon and he says, "I am vengeance." And we have this moment where Bruce sees what he has actually been doing all along. He hasn't done anything properly good, actively good for society. He has unleashed pain on all these criminals. He has helped, yes. But he can be something more. He can be something more important. Otherwise, just the other side of the coin of what the Riddler was. To the point that there was a logic behind Riddler thinking that they were working together, this illusion that he had in his head of them working together, because they kind of have the same goal of taking out the corruption, the filth out of Gotham. But just their methods are different. Batman wanted to take down Carmine Falcone, that eventually Riddler shot dead. Which, by the way, I don't know if he's dead, because he's clearly just shot on the shoulder, but he tucks away like he's dead. So I hope he's not dead, because John Turturro was so good in this. But the fact that he's dead does open up a power vacuum in Gotham's criminal underworld that the Penguin by the end seems to want to take over. And that opens it up for No Man's Land that Matt Reeves does want to make as his second movie, or at least has referenced that that's where he wants to take this franchise. And so that interesting direction that he sets up, the world building that he does so intricately, so meticulously well, and all that character work is just fantastic to me. There are so many things to absolutely love in this film. That final narration of Bruce realizing what he has to do. He has to be here for the people of Gotham. Those people that he helps out from underneath the scaffolding when it falls down, and he turns on the flare and guides them out of the water like fucking Moses. When I saw that shot, nerdgasm, my friends. Nerdgasm. Again, Greig Fraser is an absolute madman. He shoots this film so gorgeously. Gorgeous wides with gorgeous choreography on the action sequences. And just another reminder that that chase scene is one of the best chase scenes I have ever seen, period. Right up there with a French Connection. Yes, I'm serious. And if I'm talking about action sequences, the one when Catwoman is trying to kill Carmine Falcone and the lights go down and Batman just walks on this hallway. Chills. Every time Batman shows up, the sound design just enhances the whole experience. But again, it's just fucking cool to see the Batman show up and take care of fools. And one last point before I move on to final thoughts is, of course, we gotta talk about the pin drop at the end, the very Keegan cameo, Joker chatting a little bit with the Riddler as he witnesses that Batman was able to save the people of Gotham. He found his higher purpose. Riddler is flipping out. And we have the introduction of this universe's Joker. So the rumors were right that he was going to be in this film. I thought at one point he was going to be Talon, just because I really wanted them to cement the involvement of the Court of Owls, but they didn't. Matt Reeves is playing it very subtly, which I really respect. He's in this for the long game. He's using this trilogy as a form of long-term storytelling. But I really like this quick moment we got with Barry. I still am not sure about the laugh, but I'm really not bothered by not being convinced about the laugh. I love that they don't show us what he looks like. They have him sort of behind the cage, the bars. They have him like hidden in the shadows with lighting and shadows obscuring most of his face. So we notice like the scar tissue. We notice the spiky hair, and we're able to just see him perform this character, which is interesting. There just isn't too much to take away. Like, we're not gonna judge Barry Keoghan's Joker out of this one single moment. Matt Reeves deserves all the congratulations as far as I'm concerned. This is an epic, melancholic, tragic, compelling look at this broken man finding something more out there, becoming something more, taking those shards of himself, those pieces of himself, and putting them together for something more. It feels like this perfect marriage of what was created and developed in the comics, and he perfectly adapts it to this gritty, real, hard-boiled world where we can see these extraordinary characters as real people. I just really love this film, and I think I talked about everything that I wanted to talk about when it comes to spoilers. But so those are only my thoughts on The Batman, my spoiler thoughts on The Batman. So let me know what you thought about it, about this review, about the film, anything and everything down there. And if I forgot to mention anything you wanted to hear my thoughts on, make sure to let me know. Thank you so much for watching. You are the best, and there's a ton more Batman content coming yet this week, through tomorrow, and even through the weekend. And make sure to check out the spoiler-free review as well. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my channel members Bruna and Stuart for making this video possible. Until the next one, love each other and love the movies.